Okay, hello everyone. My name is Emil Collins. My partner and I, Corbin Munson, we had the topic of the dark side of computer mediated communication, otherwise known as CMC. So today we're going to be talking about what exactly is CMC, how the use of it can be positive and negative, and what actions actually make it dark side of CMC. So firstly, what is CMC? Computer-mediated communication is defined as any human communication that occurs through the use of two or more electronic devices, usually using the internet as a medium. So this is all of the things listed below: texting, email, chat rooms, social media, online forums, etc. Also, what's not listed here is uh, video game usage. That kind of falls under chat rooms because that's what they turn into when people use video games online. But yeah, all of these are computer mediated forms of communication that require two individuals to use them and connect with one another that aren't face to face. And the computers is the means of communication. Why do we use CMC? There are a lot of pros to computer-mediated communication. Obviously, over the years, the rise of communication, technology, and technology in general has made it much more prevalent and has made it such a powerful tool for us as humans to be able to communicate with one another. So we can exchange, store, broadcast information and messages instantaneously. So rather than the old days of mailing, writing letters, telegraphs, telegrams, all of those things are a thing of the past now due to computer mediated communication. We can instantly send messages to one another. Breaks down geographical barriers and allows us to expand our network. What this means is, like I said, we can communicate with one another uh, despite not being face to face. So being able to talk to somebody who's across the country and maintain a relationship with someone who's across the country breaks down geographical barriers and expands our network. This means that we're able to communicate with people who otherwise we would never have any contact with. Um, Being in Mount Pleasant, being able to talk to somebody who's, say, in Los Angeles. Um, those are two completely different geographical locations and networks of people who we otherwise would not have any type of contact with. So it's a great way to expand our social network. Social influence and identity can be independent online from real world. This means that our influence and who we are online can be completely different and independent from who we are and how we're perceived in the real world. So if someone isn't the most confident person and they have, struggles with social anxiety or things of that nature, all of that is essentially put on the back burner online, and it allows them to step into an entirely different form of communication that lets them be whoever they want to be, essentially. And lastly, it saves time and resources and is just overall more efficient. Like I said, with the rise of technology over the years, business meetings that people used to have to get on planes to fly across the country for a 2-hour meeting. All of that time and expenses and energy is saved by being able to get on your phone and get in a group chat or hop in a Zoom call and handle that 2-hour phone call much more conveniently without having to spend the time, money, and resources to do that. So it's overall just more efficient. Problematic aspects of online social interaction. Excessive interaction, you can lose touch with real world socialization. So what this means is the more people are on their laptops and computers and other forms of computer mediated communications, it's easy to kind of forget about the real world of your real social network and just abandon all of that. Um, so yeah, the excessive interaction online makes it very easy to kind of blur the lines of face to face and CMC. It's addictive. It's naturally addictive. The ease of use and accessibility is dangerous. Everybody, I'm sure, spends hours a day on their phones and gets lost in, texting, social media, uh, DMs, and so forth. It's just highly addictive, and the accessibility is really what's the most dangerous part. The appeal to social subset. Dark CMC is more attractive to those with difficulties in social life. This means that people who, like I said earlier, have difficulties like with their self-confidence or just generally don't do well in real world social environments, they're more attracted to the internet and to CMC because it kind of cuts out a lot of the things that make people anxious about communicating face to face because it's completely remote and from a comfortable environment. So it's very appealing to people with those type of issues. Cyber stalking allows for abusive and intrusive behavior. It's extremely easy to stalk people using the internet and using CMC. Um, Things like simply looking at someone's Instagram over and over and over again. Like they won't know you're doing it, but you're essentially stalking them in a way. It's not as dangerous as traditional stalking, physically being in their space and on their premises and property, but it's essentially the same thing. Negative outcomes, abandoning responsibilities, depression, and loneliness. Uh, this means that people tend to lose sight. Again, this is kind of like the excessive interaction point. People tend to lose sight of what's real and what really matters. People skip class to use their laptops and phones to communicate on social networks or to FaceTime all day, or they skip work or fall behind on other responsibilities. This can also cause depression and loneliness because the computer and the internet becomes all they know, and it's easy to slip into a negative mental space this way. And then the question of causality. This is a huge part of CMC, and researchers have always struggled with figuring out this point. Does the internet make people lonely, or do lonely people use the internet? That's just one example of a question that people have been trying to figure out for quite some time now. All the negative effects of using the internet, um, they've been trying to figure out if these effects are effects of the internet or if people who are already suffering from these type of issues are just more persuaded to use the internet. So these are all problematic aspects of online social interaction. Next, we have dark communities, the duality of online support. So the big three that the assigned article talks about are social distance, anonymity, and intersectional management. These are all sort of double-edged swords that CMC allows people to use because they have many pros, but as we're going to get into, they can also be very dangerous and have many cons as well. So first, social distance. Online social support increases weak tie relationships. What this means is a weak tie relationship is a relationship that is not held together by traditional means, meaning you don't really know this person, you didn't grow up with this person, you didn't meet this person in a traditional way. Rather, you met them online. This means that it increases these relationships and makes them that much stronger, which again could be a positive and a negative. Secondly, it allows individuals to communicate outside their normal social networks, kind of like how I talked about earlier. This means that um, it lets all of us interact with people who we may have never been in contact with. I've met some of my best friends online and some of the most useful people. I'm sure we all have met people online, and this allows us to grow our social networks, which again is a positive and a negative. Number three, dependency from a request of social support is reduced. Um, this means that you don't necessarily depend on being supported by the people who are necessarily around you. You can seek out this support yourself, which again is good and bad. And lastly, potentially embarrassing problems discussed are less likely to haunt in the future. This means that things that you talk about, people are more inclined to divulge more faster on the internet. This has also been studied. And again, this is good and bad. Anonymity. This means that people are allowed to get on the internet and not have to divulge their full identity. There is an anonymous factor to using the internet and CMC, which kind of allows people to fly under the radar. And again, like I said earlier, create any type of persona they want. Receivers and senders can remain anonymous. Like I said, you don't have to be yourself. I don't have to be Mill Collins on the internet or on CMC. Greater interest of self-disclosure from individuals. This means that people who use CMC tend to want to know more about the person that they're talking to. Not knowing individuals allows for a greater sense of freedom. Again, you don't really feel too much of a social pressure to fall within certain norms because these are people you meet on the internet. So you don't really feel the pressure to kind of conform to the rules that you normally abide by on an everyday basis when you're around people in a physical sense. And lastly, freedom leads to discussion of private, personal thoughts. This means that people are just way more willing to talk about things that they wouldn't necessarily say or speak on face to face or in regular social settings offline. They're way quicker to say things that are much more private and personal. So these are two out of the three. I'm gonna pass it to Corbin to finish out the rest of the presentation.